So that's cool. So let's go into your next Wayford Technologies.
Yeah.
Associate producer and level designer.
Yeah. So that one, I came I came back to California with my wife.
From Utah.
Okay. Found a renter for my house. So
found a renter, so you were able to keep the property.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah. So
you didn't sell. That's good.
I didn't sell. That I'm not gonna even talk about the house for this time. It's another nightmare. Got out of it eventually, but
on our next show.
Yeah. It's you don't want to hear it. It's an awful story. But so I came back. I was unemployed.
Okay.
And I went to Disney Interactive Studios to get lunch with some people that I used to work with.
Okay.
And they said, "Oh, hey, it's been a while. We should talk and hang out." I said, "Okay." So I was talking with people, and they said, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, nothing right now. I just got back and unemployed." And they said, like, "I think I know some people. Like, do you want me to reach out?" I'm like, "Yeah, yes, right." I was very interested in getting employed again. So luckily, they knew somebody at WayForward Technologies. WayForward Technologies is more known for Shantae recently. Which is they do mostly like side scrollers and stuff. So they've done like DuckTales Remastered and Boy and His Blob and Blood Rain and a bunch of other side scrollers.
That's awesome. Those have a huge market. Even now, they have a huge market.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's rebounded because before games were a lot just side scrolling. But
it's
awesome.
They had the old school aesthetic down. Like they knew how to make a solid jump. They knew how to make like cool side scroller mechanics. Their art style is really good. They do basically hand drawn stuff for everything.
Nice.
So it was really great to see all these characters that are, it harkened back to like the Virgin Interactive days where you'd see like Lion King or Aladdin on the Genesis or SNES. Mm-hmm. So it was all hand drawn side scroller stuff. So it was really cool.
Yeah, those are great games too. I remember playing both of those on the Genesis.
I was a big fan of those back in the day and a side scroller fan, right? So I'd say Mega Man 2 is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
So we did the interview, and I think what helped me get in, actually, they were like, so talk about some of your favorite games, and that's like NES games. And I'm like, Mega Man 2. I know I'm in the minority, but I actually like the second Zelda. And they were like, really?
Yeah, even I'm like, what? What did you like about the second Zelda? Because that was kind of a flop.
It is not. So here's the reason that I think people see it as a flop. I think they see it as a flop because Zelda 1 is, arguably one of the best games ever made. And
yes, true statement. He's speaking facts.
It is and rightfully so. It is a very good game. And I think it was a different developer that worked on the second one.
That is also true.
Yeah. And so when they did it, it was like very much like Super Mario 2, right? Which is like a different developer from the original
Preach.
one. Yeah. So, but now here's the part where I am putting on nostalgia glasses for sure, right? It was one of the first games that I had on the NES, right? Now I played through Zelda 1, but then I had Zelda 2 also. One of my crowning achievements as a gamer is like beating that game, right? Mm-hmm. Not many people I know have been able to beat Zelda 2. It's a freaking hard game.
Yeah.
So, but I kind of liked the side scroller combat that they had. They had this like you could crouch and stab, right? You had the downward thrust, right? You had all these different mechanics, and when you were sword fighting with like skeletons and knights, they had their shields and they would like block up, and you'd have to like trick them into like stabbing up. So that stuff for me, I was like, that's a lot of fun. That feels like a fun like sword fighting sort of experience that's side scroller.
Yeah, it sounds like you would have liked it even if it wasn't a Zelda entity or Zelda title.
And that's kind of the way that I look at it. I don't really consider it part of the Zelda pantheon in a way. I just view it as like it's a fun game, right? And so they were super intrigued by this.
It's like canon, right? It's like when they say it's canon. Oh, it's not a part of the full thing, and they just made it.
Yeah, it's like they're making a new Terminator right now. All the ones before, like after 2, they're like,
it was a dream sequence. They'll never know.
Yeah, exactly. We're just not treating that as part of the canon.
Yeah.
So for me, that was I loved that game, and it's kind of like Dark Souls, but old school, right? This open world ish kind of game where you get to go around and you get like, oh, now I have the hammer, now I can break rocks and go on the other side, and now I have the candle so I can see in the dark, and now you had all this stuff, and it was a really interesting RPG, I think, back in the day, and it gets a lot of shit, and understandably, because you had Zelda as a precursor before it. So is it as good as Zelda 1? No. Do I think it's still a good game, and do I think it gets better at? Actually, yeah. But so they were super intrigued by this. They were like, "Oh, interesting, right?"
Yeah.
So I was able to talk shop, I think, well enough, and I had said like, "Oh yeah, I knew some scripting stuff that was proprietary at my previous thing. I've done some Unreal stuff." So they were like, "Okay, so it sounds like you've done some of this stuff. So cool, we'll bring you on." And I was telling I was playing Batman at the time, and I'm like, "Oh man, it was really good. It's a really good Batman game," and I'm a huge Batman nerd, so I was talking all about it. And so I got through everything, and they hired me, and they said, "Okay, so the game we're working on is a Batman game." And I was like, "What? Oh my God.
Did I say I was playing a Batman game? Awesome.
Yeah. So one of the things that I had said in the interview, they're like, "Why do you think the current Batman game is so good?" I'm like, "They don't have a Batmobile segment. They just focused on like what makes Batman cool."
Well, there was a Batmobile segment in the
Third one.
Well, the one that was on the Game Gear.
Yeah, so this one,
that one was amazing. I remember playing that as a kid. You could do they had the ship, they had the Batwing and the Batmobile.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
But my problem with it was like when you would play it in games, it would divert the focus, because it would be like, well, we have to have a Batmobile, and we have to have a Batwing, and we have to have this, and it's like, dude, just focus on making what the core loop is.
Yeah,
make that fun, right? And so my point was with the Rocksteady one, it was like they didn't go, we have to add a Batmobile thing, we have to have this. They just said, okay, it's in Arkham. You're doing Batman shit. You're hanging upside down and putting guys and stringing them up and leaving them on gargoyles and being sneaky and then beating the hell out of like 90 dudes. It was all Batman shit. So I was like, that's really cool. And so they said, it's so funny you said that, because we literally cut a Batmobile sequence that we had because we couldn't focus on getting it, and we just said, yeah, screw that. So when you said that was like, oh, that's really intriguing that he said that. Right.
Nice.
So I was like, oh, wow. I kind of like, I walked into that one just because I'm an opinionated bastard, and was like, that's what I think.
I think it also helped with how your explanation of Zelda 2 was as well.
Right.
Because I think you articulated your view well on why you liked it and what was fun about it. Because I think, like myself, I think a lot of other gamers thought this was the new direction they're going into when it came out. And you're just kind of like, WTF, did someone get fired? Like, what happened where you guys had this very successful first game and you're literally just flipping the table over and going like, we're gonna redesign it and make it something different? I think that's what kind of scared people.
That's why I think everybody loved Link to the Past, because when Link to the Past came out, it was like, oh, thank God they went back to like making it the way that it needed to be.
And I think they also even recognized like, holy shit, we need to give them what they want. They're going to wait 5 years for it, but we're going to give it to them. And I think when they did that, it was a perfect title, perfect game. You were back into doing what you knew, busting up walls and playing,
chickens and
stabby. Yeah.
Cutting grass. Yeah.
Nice.